By the way, since we're talking about all these teams that are down there, I notice we haven't talked about Fnatic yet, Monty. I have a specific topic I want to address here because it's a historical topic as well. Mate, this just shows you how, one of my favourite sayings of all time, I don't know who said this quote, I think it was someone famous, like some politician or something, or like H.L. Mencken or something. You know that quote that says, if you give a man a reputation as an early riser, he can sleep till noon? Dude, that is fucking Humanoid this year. This is a disgrace. Like, I'm not joking. If this was any other player, then I would say, I think the only player that could also survive this is Caps. He's the only other one that could int like this and get away with it for a while. Like, as you see, by the way, dude, Perks can play great and get fucking criticism. Humanoid's play this split has actually been, in my opinion, shameful. Because the worst part of it is, it's not that he's just inting guys. He's actually playing, like, in my opinion, just way too disrespectfully. Every fucking level 3, you just know he's going to die to the enemy jungler. It's mental. I even saw one this last weekend, Monty, where he was seeing the ward. It was warded and he still let the guy come in and kill him. Like, mate, all I think of is this, right? People will know I'm obviously mates with Upset. Imagine being the ADC in these games and then your mid laner just dies at level 3 every time to the enemy jungler. To the enemy jungler as well! The guy who's coming to fuck your game up 3 minutes from now. Like, that's got to be the most frustrating experience of all time, mate. And then also, spoiler, who's the other inter on that team? Fucking Illisang. He just ints all the time as well. Like, bearing in mind, LEC in a ULCS has always been about mid lane strength. I think this guy is just tanking their whole split. Like, I hate to blame one person in terms of Humanoid, but mate, he was supposed to be the panacea. He is the god player who everyone plays around and will shot call and lead and win the lane, and he's going to be our Western Chovy and that. This is a really bad split in my opinion. It's one of the worst. It's like egregiously bad. Because as I say, it's one thing if you just play and you just lose, like you'd had a bad game. This guy doesn't see. He almost has like an ambivalence to whether he wins or loses, which might seem good when you win because it makes you seem like, oh, it's cool under pressure. It almost seems like he doesn't care that they're losing. That's what I get that vibe almost.
I think what's so confusing to me is that when you look at the way Razork and Humanoid are playing, it's like they're not even talking to each other at all. They are sharing no game state details. They are operating as though the other person's game state doesn't exist. And it is very easy for professional players to be like, I am out of mana, I am pushed up, or I am pushed in, don't do this thing. So I'm not sure who is to blame in this scenario because it's impossible to tell from the outside. All you can see is that their early game comms are clearly garbage. Because it's very basic mistakes that they're making that could be remedied just by one player being like, I can't help you right now, so play more passively.
Oh, mate, they're one of the number one
in comms.
It's funny because in the last split, I always used to think the best thing about Fnatic was the go button. Mate, that go button needs a fucking safety trigger on it. You know what I mean? Like, that go button, they stop pressing that button, fucking Humanoid.
I also find it funny that people are, blaming Yamato for drafts, whereas, I actually think some of Fnatic's drafts have been quite good. We roll back to a few weeks ago.
Also, mate, listen, obviously this is pure speculation. I'm not saying this from inside info and knowing players. Just as an outsider speculating. Dude, these drafts look like the player asked for these champions. There's no way he's drafting. Like, if you think Yamato's sitting there and he's going like, here you go, Humanoid. There's no way. They're asking, I guarantee they're asking for these champions, mate. It looks like, these look like what a player in Scrim wins on there and asks for in the game,
I mean, it's also, I just think, error from the team in terms of how to play out comps correctly by the Fnatic players. You go back a couple weeks and you look at their Morgana Caitlyn game. That was a good draft where they got really good advantages, and they just completely failed to push that advantage that they got from the Morgana Caitlyn. It's like Yamato gave them good tools to use, and they initially used those tools well. But there has to be a way that you play out that draft that it's unusual in this meta for players to pick that lane, but you have to play it out properly, and they completely failed to continue to push their edge. Now, you look at the game against SK this week, which is a very clean game that they played overall, and you see the Sivir come in with the Yuumi. Okay, they're going to play Kog'Maw Lulu against this Akali, so they see the Akali pick come out against SK Gaming, and they realize, this team has Wukong, Sivir, Yuumi, Akali. There's very low range. We have a huge front line of Azir, Trundle, and Ornn. What if we just pick Kog'Maw Lulu right now? Who the fuck is going to kill this Kog'Maw? Like Akali with a wild growth? No, you have an extreme peel from the Azir ult as well. It was a really good draft from Fnatic, and it made it very easy for them to win this game once they got these early advantages because everyone was low range on the side of SK. Here's an interesting point about Fnatic. Things that Yamato can control. Well, he can control level 1 invades. So what happens Oh, they have a set play at
That's some
level
good
1.
ones, yeah.
They have a set play at level 1. They invade the enemy jungle to disrupt the Wukong's pathing early and set him behind on it with a team composition that needs to get shit done in the early game. Otherwise, the scaling advantage is absolutely huge for Fnatic. And you know what? You know what prevents Razork and Humanoid from having garbage synergy? Well, an early game invade where the other jungler can't exploit that. It was actually brilliant. Here's what Yamato did. Intelligent team composition design based on what the enemy showed. Level 1 to hide your flaws so that you can scale into the late game and eliminate the point in the game where Fnatic has been weakest, which has been early game lack of synergy and that being exploited by enemies between Razork and Humanoid. So they can't fall behind early because the jungler is so far behind he just has to farm. You get a free ticket to scaling and you have a good composition to the enemy composition. I don't know how you look at Fnatic and think that Yamato is the problem here. Like
that's why they do it though, Monty. They do it because of that shit.
Band-aids all over his fucking team to prevent them from being exploited in the way they have been in that game. It was a good game plan.
Like, here's the thing. Obviously, on one level, first of all, Yamato does do the grabs and intentionally play defense and take some of the blame on himself, etc. So there is that. But I think the other reason why, Monty, is because, like everyone else in fucking League of Legends, fans just do this thing where they take a static screenshot of you and you're never allowed to change. So because their screenshot is Yamato at like Season 8 Worlds doing that speech for Vitality, their whole thing is like, oh, he's just a hype man. It's just good. He just wears a suit and then says things that sound good, but he doesn't know anything. Because here's the joke, Monty. Because these are people who are good at nothing, they can't handle the idea someone who's good at one thing could be good at 2 or 3 things. That's my take.
I don't know. I look at Fnatic and I see a bunch of drafts that are good, that can get advantages. I see him playing in a way that appears to be hiding the weaknesses of his team in order to get victories, but he cannot fix some of the problems in these games. Like, you can't guarantee that a level 1's going to work. You can't guarantee that you're not going to fall behind super hard in the early game. And you contrast that to the G2 game that Fnatic played this week. Well, G2, what do? They prioritize early game. Here comes Jankos on Pantheon Jungle, which was recently buffed. Oh, we've got Caps on Sylas, one of his all-time great champions. That can control the lane and can do very well in terms of late game, especially against Azir. We see Sylas picked into Azir all the time in other leagues.
Again, really.
And then Draven.
I should really save this for competitive edge, but I actually did while you were doing that watch party. I was watching like LEC on my side monitor while I was doing something else. And I remember looking over and going, oh, nice one, at least Fnatic's going to win. And then I turned around, I'm not even joking. It did like 10 minutes of work. And when I looked back on it, it was when they were just losing all those team fights. Oh, fuck. And I knew we were wrecked. Like, because there's another one, like, I actually thought we were going to win that one. Because if people don't know, we picked Fnatic in that one because they had the 2.5
There's like 2.5 odds. Yeah,
and it was looking like they were going to win that. There's another game that just fucking blew in it.
Yeah, and realistically, like, why should G2 be able to get these huge early game advantages? Like, they shouldn't be able just to
G2 isn't even a good early game teammate. I know.
They shouldn't be able to first rotation Draven blind. Yeah. Like, Draven is not the more That's teams, to be fair, in this meta with other strong champions, Draven is more blindable than he was previously. But if you see the Draven, you should be able to do something about the Draven, especially when you're playing an Ezreal Azir composition. Like, come the fuck on, guys. But if you get bodied in the early game, which G2 was able to pull off once again, and like you said, some of this was Humanoid, again, being too vulnerable. Fnatic just, it's like they can't help themselves. They are just going to randomly die in the early game. And the question is whether they can avoid that fate by having level 1s to kind of just stagger their opponent a little bit long enough for them to like come online. Because if they can get into the mid and late game and they're on a scaling composition, they can wait out a game. I will say if they have to push an advantage they get, like we saw with Caitlyn Morgana, that didn't go so hot because they had to play a little faster than I think they wanted to, and they're a little bit too reactive as a team. But I don't think this issue is a coaching issue.
I'll give you another reason, right? Here's another thing, right? This is why I just don't believe these idiot fans. Because if you know anything about super teams, that I don't believe there's any... Listen, I could be wrong on this, obviously, Monty. I don't believe there's a universe where Wonder was like, why are you drafting me, Jarvan? I never asked for that. It's not even a top lane chat. Because, everyone was blaming that. The second Fnatic lost, it was like, Jarvan, it was just a Jarvan. You idiots, when the champion was drafted and it was initially doing half decent in lane, you were all going like, this is a really interesting pick. Maybe it's going to be strong. Oh, he has known that. And obviously it's Wonder, by the way. So someone who's famous for like first time in champions, picking off meta champions. Like, by the way, this is why I think it's in such bad faith people act like he was drafted against and fucking wrecked or whatever. Everyone had Wunder as like their best top laner of the split. That's like the one player on Fnatic everyone's given the credit to. Like, that's not an egregious draft. You can try that. I've no doubt. I would bet money. I would bet dollars to donuts, mate. He asked for that Jarvan pick. He wanted to play that.
I
no
don't
way
even,
the coach in the West is forcing you to play that. Come on.
I don't even think it's. I don't even.
It wasn't
think
that bad. He was fine.
Like,
that wasn't why they lost.
You have to look at who they're playing into. Like, you can lock down the Draven. You can kill the Draven. Jarvan's damage got buffed on this patch. Like, his point is you can control the Draven, you can control the Pantheon potentially as well, you can control the Renata Glass. Like, you can set up these team fights. I don't think it's terrible. He also can be very difficult to deal with in lane. So that wasn't the issue here. The issue was just, you know, a lot of early game deaths again. And
who are these fucks, right? They sit there, they watch, right? The champions come in, they go in the Wraith, come on. Level 3, Humanoid goes and just dies around mid lane, and then they go, fucking Yamato. Is that what Fnatic fans are? Is Fnatic fans that fucking guy on the bike, and they're riding along, and then Humanoid just fucking, Humanoid's the stick, and he goes into the wheel and fucks the whole bike, and then when they fall over, they go, fucking Yamato drafts. Like, yeah, that's Fnatic right there. That's nailed it. A Dandion or whatever, get on that. That's your next fucking project. Because by the way, if people don't know, on this channel as well, you'll also find those little clips that we do, where it's like highlight clips or omnibus clips. Like, we just did one recently. The guy who's our editor did one about like that LS topic when Sven came on the show. He like condensed all that topic. So we're also doing some little like highlight stuff that's on this channel, by the way.
Yeah, you'll see more of it too. He's doing a great job.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
We've got a like a meme clip he made about Wolf that you'll see on the Monty and Wolf show pretty soon. That's. I've
got one I'm going to put on my Instagram today. There's just image he randomly made me, which is like a Russian, like Orthodox Russian icon style of me, like I am esports. And they're like, oh, it's actually banging. It's great. I love that shit. I'm trying to buy alley.
Yeah, it's very good.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.